Welcome back to Planet Doug, and I'm just about to head out of my temporary home here in the village of Sariak for a walk around the region. But it just occurred to me, I don't know if I've given a real tour of where I'm staying. But whether I have or not, I thought I'd give a brief tour before I head out. This is the front room of this place, a very large room. The house is kind of divided into two parts at the moment. The back of the house, there's a family living there, and they are looking after the house, so they're kind of a caretaker family. And then there's a door separating that half from the front half, and I'm sort of staying in the front half. They've got this big room here, and then there are three bedrooms here. I'm in this room over here, so this is where I've been hanging out. It's going to be very, very dark in here with this. I'm using the 360 camera right now, and it's not very good in low light. Probably even worse than the GoPro. But yeah, it's got a nice big bed. I've got all my gear, spread out as usual. And yeah, this is where I've been hanging out. And I think there's a bathroom in the back that the caretaker family uses. And then there's another bathroom here at the front, which I think I'm the only one using. So this is my bathroom here. Right here, and it's quite a simple bathroom, as you can see. It just has a bucket with water there, so that's what I use for showering. And there is a bit of an issue with the water. It comes and it goes. I never know when there's water available for the toilet or the tap. It sort of appears and then it disappears. And actually there has been no water for several days now. I think we're on day number 4. For some reason there's just no water in here, and I've been rationing and trying to work with it. So there's that. And then there's a kitchen here that the family uses. And I just realized this morning that there is a tank of water back here in the corner, and it has some water down in the bottom. So the bucket in my bathroom is full right now because I filled it from this tank. And the funny thing is, when I put my bucket down in there to fill it up, I noticed there were 2 fish down there, like medium-sized fish. So some fish are living in that tank for some reason. I don't know why they're there. But yeah, this is basically where I'm staying. Here's the kitchen, and then through this door over here, the caretaker family. They have a living room and bedrooms and a whole other living area back there. I haven't been back there at all. Well, actually, I think I went back there once to, I think I used the bathroom at the back one time. But I haven't really seen much of how things work back there. But anyway, the sun has been out this morning. It's probably disappearing by now. I'm a little bit late for this walk, but I'm going to go for a walk and see what's going on out there in the real world. And this is the front porch of the house, and you'll be able to see the house as I walk out. They have a young puppy here, a black and white puppy, that I've been trying desperately to befriend. And on the very first day, it ran up to me, and I thought we were becoming friends. But since then, it's been way too shy and nervous. And yeah, I didn't see it there this time. Yeah, I may have waited too long to go for this walk, but hopefully I can complete, oh boy, maybe I can't really do it at all. Anyway, there's been a lot of rain lately. The weather has been rainy most of the time that I've been here, which is a bit unfortunate. It's kind of put a damper on a lot of my exploring. When the sun does come out, it's pretty amazing. The scenery and the setting here is really beautiful. But the rain has kept me from going too far afield, and it might do the same thing today. I'm not sure. So my plan for this walk was to go down the main road. Like, this is the village of Sariak, or Sarik. People say it different ways.
Morning.
Good morning. How are you? Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Salamat pagi.
Bye. Bye.
Goodbye. I've been here in Sumatra quite a bit, and I don't know. I guess I'm not I guess at a deep level, I'm not very adaptable. You'd think I am because I spent so much time overseas, but I do find local traditions and things keep taking me by surprise. Like in that case there, a young boy came up to me and held out his hand, and my instinct, of course, is to shake his hand. But that's not what they do here. When a younger person meets an elder, they take your hand and then they touch it to their forehead as a sign of respect. And I know that. I've experienced it hundreds of times, like literally hundreds of times. And yet every time I still instinctively, I go in for the handshake. And then they raise my hand to their forehead. I think, oh, I should have expected that. But yeah, apparently some habits are so deeply ingrained, you almost never get rid of them. So I could keep going down to the main road and then follow the main road to my destination. It's only about 1.5 kilometers away, but there's also a way to get there through some of these small farming roads that go up onto the slopes of the volcano just a little bit. So my plan is to walk there through these small country roads and then return perhaps along the main road. And where I'm going is basically the neighboring village, but it seems to be a much more developed place. I passed through it once or twice, but I've never actually stopped there. There's actually a kind of an intersection and a whole bunch of little roads forming a grid, like an actual little town. And I think there are a lot more businesses there, a lot more shops and restaurants and things like that. And I just wanted to walk. I haven't been there. I've been in this area for quite a while already. And in this village, in my village, there's really nothing here. A couple of very small shops that people put in the front room of their house. There's one place where I get most of my meals. It's like again, a home. And the woman there makes some chicken and rice every day and puts it in the window. And I get chicken and rice and veggies to go. And there's a mi ayam bakso place. And that's pretty much it. There's really nothing else here. Little shop where I get my morning coffee and fried banana, But this area, about 1.5 kilometers away, has more, at least according to Google Maps, has some small businesses, actual restaurants, and maybe a coffee shop or two, things like that. I just want to walk there and see what's there. Hello. Yeah, there's a small shop. And that's kind of what you find in this village. And I'm thinking of this walk as a little bit of a story time video, just to go for a walk and chat a little bit about things that are going on. There's an opening. Get a view of some of the farming countryside. And I guess my road is going around this field and then back down to that cluster of buildings you see on the other side of the field. Somewhere over there, that's where I'm going. Yeah, I've been here several times already, walking along beside this field. It's one of the most picturesque places here. Gorgeous. And I'm normally coming down out of this road on my right. That's where I've emerged from every single time, because that's my walk has taken me from that direction. So as soon as I pass this road, now I'm going to be in brand new territory. I've never been here before, so this is all fresh and new. I just cross my fingers that the rain stays away for an hour or two. Let me finish this walk. Wow, it's so nice. Other stories to tell. The other day, I got on my bike for the first time since I've been back, and I rode down into Bukittinggi. And the plan was to visit a place, it's a well-known tourist attraction here, though I was not aware of it at all. I had no idea this place was in Bukittinggi. But it's a Japanese military installation dating from World War II, because the Empire of Japan, of course, expanded throughout Southeast Asia during World War II and took over a lot of these countries. And I think their invasion of these countries followed a similar pattern in that they could initially be seen as liberators. Hello. Because a lot of these countries were colonies of various European powers at the time. And then when Japan showed up with their army, they could say, well, we are liberating you, like here in Indonesia. It wasn't even Indonesia at the time, of course. This was the Dutch East Indies, a colony of the Netherlands. And then when the Japanese showed up, they could present themselves as a liberating army. We are here to liberate you from the Dutch. And of course, once the Japanese drove out the Dutch and defeated them, it took them 3 months, according to what I read. The invasion started, and 3 months later, the Dutch surrendered. But then, of course, once Japan was in power, they just became the new occupying power. They just replaced the Dutch. Selamat pagi. And they had a war to fight, so they had a lot of things to build, a lot of infrastructure to build, and they needed labor, so of course they set about conscripting forced laborers in Java, mainly, from what I read. And all the articles I read have all kinds of different numbers, widely varying numbers, so I'm not really sure what is true or what are the true facts. But anywhere from 4 to 10 million local people were forced into labor. They became forced laborers, and tens of thousands of them apparently were brought from Java to Sumatra. And again, I think that's a pretty common tactic for any occupying army, or even an army in their own country that is sort of an occupying force, not exactly friendly to their own people. What they like to do is get their soldiers and laborers from other parts of the country. So they're not conscripting local people because they would be more difficult to control, but they bring in outsiders from Java, and they brought tens of thousands of laborers from Java to Bukittinggi to dig tunnels, as they wanted to build a fortified underground military complex. Selamat pagi. So where am I? Jorong Lukok. I assume that's the name of this little village I'm going to be walking through. I mean, look at this. I feel almost like I'm in a fairy tale land. It's that beautiful and that quaint. Just walking into this village, it feels like something very special. It's not something, again, that you would do every day of your life. So the Japanese had all these conscripted laborers digging the tunnels here, and you can guess how that went. There are stories from all across Southeast Asia of the Japanese practices during World War II. They were not exactly kind, to put it mildly, and of course a lot of the local laborers died during the construction of the tunnels. And again, the numbers are all over the place, so I don't know what is true and factual and what isn't. but some things I read talked about how the Japanese being here in Indonesia just sort of disrupted everything, like disrupted normal life, the planting of crops, the harvesting, and that set off famines. And somewhere like 4 million Indonesians died during the Japanese occupation from starvation or from, poor treatment at the hands of the Japanese. So yeah, if you've read any history at all about World War II and Japan occupying a lot of these countries, you sort of know what happened here in Bukit Tinggi. It was similar to what happened in Taiwan when I was living there. There were some historical monuments you could visit there, monuments to all the prisoners of war that the Japanese forced into labor, and so many of them died from ill treatment as well. Well, here's a field of carrots. Wortel, I learned that they're called in Bahasa Indonesia. And as far as the military, like the underground military installation in Bukit Tinggi, everything I read about it was kind of conflicting as well. There were not a lot of facts and figures and numbers that I could find online. Selamat pagi. Oh, saya dari Canada. Canada. Yeah. And the things I could find online, they all contradicted each other. So I'm not really sure about anything to do with this tunnel complex. Even when I was going there, I didn't know what I would find when I got there. But I read that there were 1.8 kilometers of underground tunnels that were open to the public. I think it opened in 1984 as a tourist attraction, part of a modern history. And I also read that there were up to 8 kilometers of tunnel in total. And the other 6 kilometers, or 6.2 kilometers, was still there, but it was not open to the public. Only 1.8 kilometers had been restored and made safe enough for tourists to go inside and take a look around. And I don't know if it was ever... Hello, how are you? Selamat siang. I just realized I've been saying a salamat pagi to people, and I think it's too late to be pagi. It's not morning anymore. It's midday, so I should say salamat siang. Yeah, I don't even know if the tunnels were ever used. They had a map at the entrance to the tunnel complex, and took a close look at the map, and there were clearly marked like military barracks and a kitchen, ammunition rooms, a prison, dining rooms, escape tunnels. All these things were labeled on the map, and it looked very complete. I'll get to what it looks like in a minute, but I don't know, based on what I read, like from the Japanese point of view, was it ever completed and put into use during the war itself? Like, were there ever Japanese soldiers billeted underground? Did they ever have to go underground to escape, aerial bombardment? Did they ever defend it from invading Allied troops? I have no idea. My feeling is that it was such a huge engineering project, and it took so much time and so much labor that they never really finished it in time. I think they finished some of it, but then I think the war ended before they ever got to use it. That's kind of my feeling about it. But yeah, I could be completely wrong about that. And when I got there, I was surprised to find that the entrance to the tunnel complex was part of another park. There was actually a panorama park that gave you these stunning views of a canyon, a ravine that runs right along the edge of Bukittinggi. It was astonishing. You're right there in Bukittinggi, turn the corner, and then you just hit, bam, the edge of a ravine, a canyon, like truly a canyon. It's big. And there's just like this vast, gorgeous area, you know, with the hills and behind, the mountains behind, a river down below. And it was in these cliffs of the canyon that the Japanese built this tunnel complex underground. But I didn't know about that at all. Look at this place. Could anything be more picturesque, more quaint than this? It is gorgeous here. I'm patting myself on the back for my idea to go for this walk today, because I was just in my room at the house editing some videos for YouTube, and I have a lot built up, a lot of work to do, and I was going to spend the whole day doing that. But then I saw that it wasn't raining, so I thought, okay, we better go for a walk. And now I am super, super happy that I did so. And speaking of water, there's some water. So there's a lot of water here, and it's flowing downhill. You see a lot of these big tanks near mosques, and you can see just below me there's a building, and I'm sure that's a washing room. I forget the official name for them, because before you go into the mosque, of course, there is the tradition and the ceremony of, you know, washing your body, your feet, and there's a whole elaborate way of doing it to make sure that you are pure before going into the mosque, and the water is being funneled into that building for people to do that. And it looks like it's used for washing clothes, things like that. There's a woman down there doing some laundry as well. Yeah, amazing sight. So when I rode my bike into Bukittinggi, I was looking for the entrance to the Japanese tunnels, as they call them. Hello. And it turns out that there was no separate entrance for the military installation that I was looking for. It was inside this panoramic park, you know, a scenic lookout garden. And so you pay an entrance fee. It was 20,000 rupiah for me, for a foreigner, to enter this park. And that gave you access to, you know, the park itself, all the beautiful views. And it's filled with, you know, souvenir stalls, and there's a tower you can climb up to get nicer views, and some restaurants and little shops. And inside there is also this underground military installation. So that's how you get to this place. You actually have to go into the panoramic park, and your 20,000 rupiah ticket to go into the park also gains you access to the underground tunnels. So that's how that works. And I remember thinking when I went into this park and then into the tunnels, in a rare, I don't often think like this, but I had this thought that they were seriously undercharging. If you think in terms of what the market can bear. Because I was thinking 20,000 rupiah, which is like $1.25 US, and that gets you that view, the canyon I was looking at, and entrance into this Japanese military installation. It was like, you know, from a tourism point of view, and certainly from the point of view of my personal interests, it was like the bargain of a lifetime, you know. Selamat siang. Selamat siang. So, yeah, it was 20,000 rupiah. It was quite the bargain. So my original idea was to go straight to the Japanese tunnels. I always have a limited amount of energy. I'm a lot like any kind of a car or electric motorcycle or gas-powered motorcycle. I have energy in the tank when I start the day, but only so much. so I have to use it carefully. Okay. Hello. Selamat siang. So I was mainly interested in this, in the tunnels, and I was going to go straight for the tunnels because I didn't want to use up all my energy doing other things, and then by the time I get to the tunnels, I'm back to like, oh, I'm just so exhausted. You know, I don't have any energy left. So my idea was to go to the tunnels right away. But I walked into that park, and that canyon view, wow, it was stunning. So I had to spend a lot of time taking that in. I had a variety of cameras with me. You know, I had my Olympus Micro Four Thirds camera. I had a GoPro running, 2 GoPros running. Selamat siang. More carrot cleaning. And I had the 360 camera running. So I had a lot going on, and I was filming with all these different cameras, taking pictures with my smartphone on top of everything. And monkeys. The edge of the canyon was sheer. I mean, you're right on the edge with a cliff, and nothing but jungle below you, and that is the realm of the monkeys. And there were a lot of monkeys. So I spent quite a bit of time trying to get as close to them as possible and shoot some video of them. You know, I was very glad I brought my Olympus camera with me at that point. Up until that point, I was sort of feeling overwhelmed, like, oh man, too much camera equipment. It's like, why am I carrying this heavy Olympus with the zoom lens? I'm never going to use it. I should just get rid of this camera and use just the GoPro and the 360 camera. But the second I walked into that scenic lookout park and saw the monkeys, it was like, yes, I've got my Olympus. And because you can't really get, you know, good video or imagery of anything like a monkey using a GoPro. So then I got out my Olympus and the zoom lens. It's not a powerful zoom lens. It's like a medium telephoto range. But it got me a lot closer than a GoPro would have. And you get within a few feet of them, those monkeys, and they start getting nervous and baring their teeth at you. You know, you're more than happy to keep some distance, you know, between you. Oh, selamat siang.
Selamat siang.
Siang.
Mana temannya? Teman.
The Sadiak?
Oh, Sadia.
Yeah, sleeping in Sadiak. Yeah.
Jalan Sugapua, Gunung Merapi.
Oh yeah, Mount Merapi.
Wah, Merapi.
Very nice. What's the word? Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to remember the word for good. I haven't been keeping up with my Indonesian lessons for the last few days, so a lot of the words are not in my brain. Bagus. Mount Merapi. Bagus is what I wanted to say. Huh. A lot going on up here, even in this is actually, I'm higher up on the slopes than in Sadiak, but this village is much more developed than where I am in Sadiak, which is kind of interesting. So there I was, filming all the monkeys with my Olympus camera. And anytime you spend time around monkeys is a real, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a shock to the system, but it's an experience to spend time with dozens and dozens of monkeys around you. Hello. Selamat siang.
Iya. Mau kemana?
Bukit Tinggi, Sadiak,
Ya.
Mount Merapi.
Nama.
Nama.
Ya.
Douglas.
Oh, bagus.
Douglas.
Umurnya berapa?
Umur?
Ya, 40.
My age?
40.
59.
Masih hebat.
Yeah. 59. Yeah.
Hati jalan ya. Sendirian aja. Nggak ada teman. Teman. Ya. Nggak ada.
Ya, tidak mengerti.
Tidak mengerti. Bisa jawab.
I have to say that an embarrassing number of times. I don't understand. Quite often, though, the not understanding comes from a different cultural viewpoint as well. Because when you're trying to guess what the other person is asking or saying, you can't help but think from the point of view of your own culture. So I'm trying to think, okay, what would I be asking a foreigner walking by? You know, what kind of questions would I be asking? And I think she was asking me how old I am. And of course, that is just such an unusual question. It never occurs to me that she's asking me, you know, how old are you? It's like, oh, how old am I? Like, it's such an unusual thing to ask from a Canadian point of view when you encounter a stranger. But that seemed to be what she was asking me, so I told her how old I was. At least I think I did. But anyway, so there I am with all the monkeys. Very interesting animals, of course, to watch. Very social. Big groups of them, the young ones, the babies, the mothers, the dads. I mean, those were the kings of the jungle. I think that was the most interesting thing for me, where I'd be like standing at the railing with all these monkeys around me. Like, there might be a monkey on every post of the fence. Babies playing, you know, the mothers running around doing things, and suddenly there would be panic. Everybody would run and scatter. And you're like, what happened? And one of the dads, like one of the big male monkeys, would suddenly just come strolling along the fence. You know, it was like, I'm walking this way, and everybody like everybody gets out of the way of dad. He's grumpy, and they just don't want to deal with him. So everybody scatters. And then this big male monkey just walks right past me along the fence. And everybody gets out of his way, lets him pass. And then they all come back again. Yeah. The dads, physically anyway, they were in charge. Of course, the females, the mothers, they were really in charge of the colony, of the whole group, taking care of the babies, all that sort of stuff. But when dad comes, everybody pipes down, gets out of his way, lets him pass, and then they go about their business again once he's gone. Yeah, big, muscular looking creatures. And I don't know if I caught any of this on video, but there's one really fascinating moment. This happened just as I was leaving from the park. So, and so one thing, I mean, the whole time I was interacting with the monkeys and taking video of them, I was conscious of this idea of the monkeys suddenly climbing all over me, you know, perhaps grabbing something, running away with it. You see so many YouTube videos about that. People losing entire bags. You know, a monkey will grab, will grab, you know, their knapsack or their purse, and it can contain, you know, their passport and their money and their camera and their smartphone, everything. And the monkey runs away with it. And they go, oh, you don't want that to happen, because once a monkey gets over that edge and into the trees with your smartphone or your bag containing your passport, you're not getting it back very easily, if ever. So I'm sort of aware of this possibility, and I'm thinking about it, and yet nothing like that happens. Like, nothing at all. Hello. Selamat siang. Yeah, I was sort of expecting the monkeys to approach me, like look for something to eat, something. And they never really came near me. And I thought, that's kind of odd. But then towards the very end, this big family group came in. Parents and children, you know, quite a large family group. And I suddenly heard sort of some screeching sounds, a lot of hello, some sound of running and movement and some frightened cries, hello. And it turns out, hello there, Poochie. I'm keeping my distance from this fellow as well. A lot of the local dogs here, they serve as guard dogs, watchdogs, so they're not always that friendly. Turns turns out that the boys in this family, they happen to be holding a bag of snacks, some kind of crispy chips or something. And I don't know whether they bought them just for themselves or bought them to feed the monkeys. But for whatever reason why they bought them, the monkeys saw the snacks and then they poured over the fence. And I was like, oh, okay, that's the behavior I was expecting from these monkeys. Luckily, I happened to be talking to a local guide at the time. This man had just come up to me. He spoke English, and I understood that he kind of worked there as a freelance guide. And he spoke English, and he just came up, and he was chatting with me a little bit. Where are you from, and what do you think of this place? So he happened to be standing right beside me just when the monkeys rushed at these boys. And this man, this guide, he clearly had a lot of confidence with these monkeys. This was his job. He was there all the time with the monkeys, with foreigners, with local tourists, and he knew exactly what to do. He knew exactly how to handle the monkeys. And he just entered that situation like some kind of a superhero. What he did, he saw what was happening, he took in the scene instantly, and then he just walked over, like he strolled over to the boys, and he said to them in Indonesian, "Throw me the snacks, like throw me the bag." And the boys understood him, and he was so calm about it. That's what really got to me. He knew exactly what to do. He's in the middle of this monkey war, and it just didn't faze him in the slightest. And he says, "Oh, throw me the snacks. Just don't worry, give me the snacks." And as soon as he had the snacks, all the monkeys changed their focus from the boys to him, and they all gathered around him, and he just stood there calm as can be and just sort of said, "Okay, calm down." And he started taking out some of the snacks and tossing them out to the monkeys. He just had this demeanor. He was like the monkey whisperer. It was really quite interesting. And then this guide, he just walked along with the boys, with their family, and the monkeys just followed them everywhere they went. And then he just, calmly dispensed some snacks from time to time to the monkeys and just kept the whole scene under control. Hello. So somewhere in the middle of all those monkey and canyon adventures, I did go to see the what they call the Japanese tunnel. On one of the signs, they called it the Japanese hole, but I think more accurately, you could describe that as an underground military complex or military installation. It was not just a single tunnel. It was many tunnels. And I didn't really know what to expect. And I had two main takeaways from my experience visiting the tunnels. The first was that they were much, much bigger than I expected. The main entrance was huge. If it was flat, you could have driven a car in there. Maybe you could have driven a truck inside it. These were big, big tunnels. And when right from the ground level, you go down to the main entrance, which is probably 20 feet, 5 meters below the ground level just to get to the entrance. And then when you go into the entrance of the tunnel, it's a steep, steep downhill. You basically go down stairways for maybe, I don't know, I don't even know if they said there, but maybe 50 meters. You go down, 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 straight down into the cliffside before the main tunnel flattens out and you actually get to the meat and potatoes of this underground complex. So it's way, way underground. I was amazed at the size of the tunnel and how far underground you went. And it was very nicely put together from a tourist point of view. The stairs were very well built, easy to go down. I mean, you're breathing heavy going all the way down and back up again. But the stairs were in good condition, had a nice handrail that you could hold on to. Oh, and also very well lit. A lot of lighting down there. I mean, if you visit this place, I would definitely bring a flashlight. or make sure your smartphone is fully charged and you can use, you know, the light from your phone. But you could need light down there, so make sure you bring something. But they do have a lot of lighting down there, and it's all colored lighting. Like a lot of the lights have different colors, and it adds an interesting element to being down there. Kind of spooky, of course, being down there in these colorful tunnels. And yeah, you got to see everything that I saw on the map. You know, the military barracks, the ammunition rooms, the kitchen area. And you have the feeling like you could get lost down there pretty easily. But really, there's only one way in and one way out. And you might feel like you're lost, but you wouldn't be lost for very long. You know, you can always find your way back out again. But my second takeaway from the whole experience, after, you know, the size and scale of the tunnel complex, which surprised me, was that there was like no information. So you go there as a tourist, you know, you kind of want to know about the history of this place. But if you went there with no knowledge already in your brain, you wouldn't know anything. Why it was built, who built it, when they built it, what it was for, any of its history, because there was that, like, no information at all. No displays, no signs, no exhibits. Though, I guess you could hire one of the local guides, and the guide could, you know, take you through the place, and then you would learn a lot about it from the guide. But in terms of anything on display, there's nothing there at all. That kind of surprised me. You know, normally at places like this, you find looks good. And that, yeah, I'm back on the main road. This is the road that serves as a kind of shortcut for people going from Payakumbuh or from Pekanbaru to Padang. If they take this road, they can skip Bukittinggi completely. So yeah, that's kind of the end of my story, I guess, visiting the tunnel complex and the canyon. That would be, I guess, my main takeaway, as I said, was the scale of it. Really worth visiting these tunnels. Really interesting, particularly if you have any kind of an interest in, you know, World War II history. So it's well worth visiting, but you kind of have to go there armed with your own knowledge of what the place is all about to truly appreciate it, because, as I said, there's no information there. I thought that since this little cluster of businesses would have, you know, restaurants and things like that, I thought I would spend some time there and have something to eat, maybe something to drink, but I find I'm not really in the mood. Now that I've started my walk, I kind of want to complete my walk in a circle and go all the way back to Sariak, and I can get something to eat there. I'm curious how far it is. My original idea was that it was far enough away that I would have to ride my bike. But when I checked on Google Maps, it was much closer than I thought, just like 1.5 kilometers. Of course, it's no fun walking along this road. But I could always go back through the small roads if I wanted a more comfortable experience. Just the first time, thought I'd try the main road, just see what it's like. Well, it's actually not far at all. It's within easy walking distance down the main road. Okay, it's good to know. Assuming I stay in the village for a few more days, it'd be nice to have a change and head up the road and have a meal or two there from time to time. And you get this view every time. it's gorgeous. It's funny, I had the same idea the other day when I went to the canyon and the Japanese tunnels. I combined it in my mind with a trip into Bukitingi, and I was going to do a bunch of shopping, run some errands, go to a restaurant, go to a coffee shop, you know, hang out in the big city. But once I went through all the effort of assembling my camera gear, riding all the way into town, going to the tunnels, going to the canyon, witnessing the war of the monkeys, the snack war, the snack monkey war, all of that activity, I was just exhausted, and it was all I could do just to ride my bike back up to the village. I just didn't have the energy or the interest in hanging out in the city. And I was a bit overwhelmed by all the traffic. I couldn't take the busyness of the place. The village of Sariak has turned me into a country person. I can't handle the big city anymore. Yeah, I'm already back in Sariak. I don't know if it's open or not, but I noticed there was a shop here at the gas station. I think it was closed last time I was here. I guess if it were open, this is what they would have. That would be nice. That would be really nice if this place was open. Mango Yakult. Can you imagine? Mango yogurt shake. Boy, I'd love to have one of those. Is it open? I see a sign there that says Buka. Open. Oh. Okay, I was thinking this was the place. But it's, yeah, I guess they're still building this. But maybe the restaurant is actually open. They're busy power washing the place. Oh, look at that. It appears to be open. I'll go in and see what I can get. I have my usual impeccable timing. They're open, but not really open. Not yet. They don't open till later this afternoon. This is the area where I went walking the other day at sunset. Some beautiful views of Bukitingi off to my right. I've noticed a different atmosphere out here on the streets. Busier, a different type of person. Holidayers, you know, day trippers. And I just checked, and yeah, it's Saturday today. I had no idea until just now. I didn't realize what day it was. So that explains it. There's a lot more people along the roads here. I've stopped for a few selfies with people. They drive up on their motorcycle, hop off, take a picture with me, and keep going. And I think that restaurant where, yeah, I have my sights set on that for an afternoon early dinner now. They probably open only on the weekends because I've never seen it open before. Yeah, thinking about how tired I was after my trip to the canyon and the tunnels, part of it had to do with all the camera gear, because just as I was leaving from my home here, hello, I decided to shoot with the 360 camera and with my Olympus. Hello. Up until that point, I was just going to bring my GoPros, and that's it. Just the simplest, easiest thing to do. But then at the last minute, I thought, okay, no, let's throw the 360 on the bike as I ride down. And I thought I'd bring the Olympus because it's better in low light. And if I'm in tunnels, you want a low light camera because it's going to be dark down there. So at the very last minute, I had to get all of that camera gear ready. And I hadn't used the 360 or the Olympus for quite a while. I've been sort of using the GoPro mainly. So I had no idea what to do. I'd totally forgotten how to use both cameras, particularly the Olympus, which is, the Olympus menu system, the UI for operating an Olympus camera is so complicated and it's so confusing. I've had Olympus cameras for years and I still don't understand it at all. There's just something about the menu system that just befuddles me, befuddles a lot of people. Panasonic cameras, for example, have a much simpler menu system. They're more intuitive. Olympus menu systems are the definition of non-intuitive. So I'm shooting with the 360, I'm shooting with the Olympus, I'm exhausted, trying to get all this gear ready. And when I got into town, the Insta360, the battery died, mounted on the bicycle, so I stopped at the side of the road and I was changing the battery. And it was at the end of this selfie stick, high in the air, and I unscrewed the camera too far, and it came loose from the selfie stick, flew out of my hands, and went sailing towards the pavement. And I had enough time to try and grab it and miss, and realize that that's the end of my camera. I've only gotten to use it for a couple of months, and here it was falling to the pavement from quite a height. It was going to hit the lens and it was going to shatter one of the lenses, and that's going to be the end of my camera. So I was already expecting the camera to just destroy itself when it hit the pavement. But I got extremely lucky, and instead of landing on the lens, the camera just happened to go down perfectly to land right on the corner edge of the camera body itself. So it didn't hit the lens, it hit the camera body. It gouged out a big hunk of plastic from the camera body. Hello. And didn't hurt the lens at all. It eventually fell onto the lens, but the full force of the impact was taken by the camera body first, and then it fell over onto the lens, and there was no scratch at all in the lens. It's like, oh. But normally this never would have happened to me. I'm more careful than that as a rule. I was just kind of flustered and distracted from using so many different types of cameras at the same time, getting them all ready, riding my bike, all the crazy traffic of Bukatingi. I was just flustered and I wasn't paying attention. So I want to see if my coffee shop here has any snacks left. They might all be gone. Well, I definitely got lucky with the weather. My walk is finished, and it's actually nicer now at the end of my walk than it was at the beginning. The sun has come out, clear skies. Had a nice cup of coffee and some snacks. And while I was sitting in my usual shop there, having my coffee and fried bananas and other snacks, a younger woman came in. She was driving a car. She parked her car on the street outside the shop, came in. I was chatting with the owners of the shop, and then it turned out that she spoke very good English, and I was talking with her for a while, and she said that she had seen me walking down the highway, or not the highway, down that road, and she turned around to come make sure that I'm okay, because she thought that I was lost or something, Hello. Hi. Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, that time I remembered. The young boy came running up to me, and instead of, like a dummy, shaking his hand, I offered my hand, and then he raised it to his forehead, as they do in the local custom. So, yeah, I got it right this time. But yeah, this woman had seen me walking along, foreigner, way out here, and she just assumed there's no other reason for me to be here except I must be lost or I must need help. So she turned around, came all the way back to find me, and yeah, we had a good chat. She was a student, spoke, as I said, very good English, so it was really nice to talk with her. And when she got up to leave, she ordered something to drink or to take away with her, and then she covered my bill at the same time. She says, "Oh, your coffee and your snacks, that's on me today." And she hopped in her car and went home. So that was very nice of her. She treated me to my daily cup of coffee and snacks. And I had a nice conversation as well. Oh, hello. Salamat siang.
Siang. Mana?
Mana? Oh, Kamana? Here.
Oh, ke situ.
Yeah, sleep there.
Tidur situ.
Yep.
Understand.
Nice to meet you. I wonder if the little puppy will come say hello. Somehow, I don't think so. There's the normal watchdog. Oh, there's the puppy. Hey, come here. Come on. Come on. It's too frightened. Well, it's about 4:30 in the afternoon now, and as you can see in that image of Mount Marapi, it's very clear right now, very clear skies. You can see, I don't think I've ever seen the top of the volcano before, but that's it right there. Let's see if I can zoom in for a little bit of a close-up. So that's as close as I can get with the zoom on my smartphone. But yeah, well, actually a little bit of cloud moved in there. But you can see some of the very top where there's no trees at all. Just a brown soil, like volcanic soil up there at the top. It's very cool. Yeah, I think that's the very first time I've seen the exposed crater of the volcano. It's quite something. And as I was walking back to my home, I passed that restaurant at the gas station, and they told me they didn't open until 1 o'clock, but I thought I'd head there for dinner. We'll see how this turns out. If not for dinner, I'll have a drink and a snack, and then maybe I can get dinner elsewhere. We'll see how it turns out, but yeah, with weather like this, seemed like a good time to go there. Somewhere new, somewhere different in this neighborhood. So this gas station and restaurant is just beyond the archway. Welcome to Negari Sungai Pua. So I guess heading in that direction, you're entering Sungai Pua. I think Sungai means river. So I guess that's the name of the district on the other side of the archway. Or something like that, I don't know. Maybe this whole area is called Sungai Pua. Still confused about the name. And it's a bit of a struggle, as always, just getting across the road. Yeesh. There's blind corners on both sides of this archway. Considering it's Saturday, I thought this place would be very busy, but I don't see many people down there, if anyone at all. But here's the view. Yeah, the sun is still fairly high, even though it's late in the afternoon, but the sun is still pretty high. So it's a little bit washed out down there in the valley. But I guess that means it's nice and clear on this side. Well, let's go see what I can scrounge up for a snack or drink or dinner inside. So I found a seat on the inside. There's more comfortable seating out there, but the sun is hitting all those tables right now. So I thought I'd be better off sitting in the shade on the inside. Yeah, couldn't ask for a nicer view. And they had a menu that they brought to the table. So I ordered, I was wondering whether they had the mango Yakult. It's like a yogurt mango smoothie, and they did. So I ordered that. And then for food, there were just basic dishes on offer. So I just went for the classic nasi goreng with egg, nasi goreng telur, and also an iced tea. So that's what I ordered, and that's my view. Well, my drinks have arrived. There's the mango yogurt something. Doesn't look quite like a smoothie though. Oh, and here comes the nasi goreng. So there you have it, my dinner. Yeah, it looks more juice-like than smoothie. And then there's the iced tea, pretty basic, and my nasi goreng. But combine it all with that view, and that's what you come here for, I think. So that's the end of dinner, and probably the end of my day as well. Get some very nice light here. The sun is getting lower and lower in the sky. Yeah, I think that's the key to this little restaurant, really is just the setting and the view. And here's the seating inside, in case I didn't capture that on video. I can't remember if I did or not. And you step outside. There's Mount Singalang, hidden behind the clouds in that direction. And Mount Marapi, still quite a nice view of Mount Marapi over there. And there's the very top of the volcano again. And my temporary home is just a kilometer in that direction along the main road. Planet Doug review of that little restaurant. 2 questions. Would I go back there again? And would I order the same thing again? And to be honest, the answer to both questions is pretty much no. Even the little places inside my village, I prefer the food there. It's much more authentic, a lot more flavorful, a lot more food, a lot more value for your money. This feels like a kind of a business restaurant. A lot of style, you know, nice presentation of the food, beautiful dishes, beautiful view. But the food itself, you know, the nasi goreng was just that. Very, very salty. I thought it was way, way too salty. But again, don't listen to me. I'm no food expert, of course. And I think the mango drink, I don't think it was actually made with mangoes, because I don't think it is even mango season. That's why I didn't expect them to be able to even serve it, because I wouldn't think there would be mangoes right now. But I think they made it with mango powder. That's why you can get everything on the menu, because all the drinks are just made with, you know, fruit powders which, you know, they don't make it with real fruit or anything like that. And anyway, just it was a nice place to sit and have a snack and a drink. But I wouldn't return there, and I certainly wouldn't order the same food for dinner. But that's okay. There are lots of other places around that I've been having my dinners at. Nice. It was nice for a change, you know, just to get that sense of contrast. So that is it for my day here in Sariak. I may even pick up some food at one of my favorite places here, because that meal wasn't really enough for me. I can eat a whole second meal, I think. I may pick something up and eat it back at the house. But other than that, it's the end of my day. Shutting down here on Planet Doug, and I'll see you in the next video, assuming I don't get flattened by one of these cars or trucks. Yeesh. There's not a lot of room on this road. All right, that's it. Shutting down. See you next time.